Hi, thank you again for joining me today on Through the Eyes of Scripture. And as you can tell by the title, we will be discussing the topic of black, or what is black. I wanted to address this topic because there is a ton of misinformation, disinformation, confusion, deception, outright lies, and misunderstandings about black. And on this channel, we are going to discuss race in several videos. This is just one of the many videos or multiple videos I will be making to address race, period. Race is very, very important because as we understand race, it will help us to understand the Bible and understand peoples, because the Bible does address a racial group of people or multiple racial groups of people. It's only we've turned things around, renamed things, and changed faces a bit where things become confused, and then there's this misinformation about, Christianity or, believing in the Bible and thinking that race has nothing to do with anything, when race has a lot to do with everything, because you can't have a people group, and that people group be invisible. That people group has no skin color. So race does play a factor, because when you're dealing with a people group, each people group has their own specific race, or they are a mixture thereof. So I'm a person that is unapologetic in dealing in truth and with truth, because the truth will set you free according to Scripture, and we will never, ever, ever uncover and unravel the Scripture in the Bible unless we can develop enough maturity to address things that must be addressed. So I will not apologize for discussing race. I will not apologize if if there's anything that I say that makes someone uncomfortable. I will continue to speak Scripture. Now, at the same time, I will not express hostility or hatred or aggression towards other races. I really just want to look at everything objectively and from a biblical perspective so that we can get an understanding. And me being bitter and hateful or mean or angry or even exalting one race over the other is not going to help develop understanding in the word. So anyway, with all that said, there's this thing about black, because as we know, the Bible talks about three sons being birthed into the world. You have Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And these are the sons that were born to Noah. And these were the sons that repopulated the earth after the flood. But those three sons are responsible for, as I mentioned, all these different people. But there's this conflict mostly between the sons of Ham and the sons of Shem. And the reason why there is such a conflict is simply because the sons of Ham have just been labeled as the black race. Now, that in and of itself is a huge contradiction, because if Ham, quote unquote, is the black race, why is it, that people like to claim Egypt as being a white race or Caucasoid race of people? Because we read in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, the sons of Ham are Cush, Mizraim, which is Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Now, those four sons initially set up your foundation for the northeastern corner of Africa. The part that I don't understand is that, that is Africa. Those lands, basically Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Egypt, so on, Now, even though the Bible identifies them as the sons of Ham, the world will say, oh, well, this is the black race. But at the same time, they also contradict that claim by saying, well, everyone in this region that's contributed something to society according to the I think it's the Hamitic teaching. I'd have to look that up for you. But according to certain worldly perspectives, those are considered Caucasoid people. Now, how can they be considered Caucasoid or white people, but at the same time, when you're trying to tear down a people, you say that they're black? So there's a contradiction in itself. Because whenever there is the desire to say that, you know, black people were slaves and they're cursed because they're black, that's when they say that's the curse of Canaan, which is another descendant of Ham. And this is the curse of, they just put it in negative light whenever you're referring to the oppression of a black people. Because to only associate the sons of Ham as oppressed, worthless black people, and I'm not saying that black people are worthless, I'm just saying that is the negative connotation that is associated with black people. And so in those circumstances, that's when they say the sons of Ham are black. Whenever you're dealing with Nimrod, because of his aggression and the negative individual that he was in scripture, then he is associated with being black. Except because Egypt is so revered in the secular world, then that is not considered black, even though that is a son of Ham. And according to the theory, all sons of Ham are black. So it's just it's hypocritical and subjective, or no, just outright hypocritical and deceptive, and it's manipulative. Because if you're going to then associate anything good with being either Egypt, or sometimes they'll claim the whole territory of the sons of Ham. And I'm referring to the sons that are named in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, and you just want to keep going. And it'll name all the sons of Ham. So in those cases, it's all about what glory can be extracted out of claiming the sons of Ham. Because sometimes they will call Ethiopians or Somalians dark-skinned Caucasians, because of their desire to claim them and esteem them above the so-called, above black people. And I'm going to get into it more. I guess I'm on a little bit of a rant to just let out my perspective on the situation. Now, if they're going to claim the sons of Ham as Caucasian or white people, then that means that they have to acknowledge that means that they'd have to associate them with being a son or descendant of Japheth. Now, we all know the sons of Japheth, for the most part, are your white and Asian peoples, or your Caucasian and Eurasian and Asian peoples. So to then say the sons of Ham are black when convenient, whenever you're saying something bad about black people, but when it's on the other hand, when it's convenient to say that they're white, whenever you're saying something good about a people. So that in itself, again, is just misleading. Then we have the sons of Shem. So the descendants of Shem listed in Genesis chapter 10, and you will find that Genesis chapter 10 verses 21 and pretty much on through 32. Now, with these descendants, they're perceived to be of a lighter complexion. Basically, they're perceived to be European as well, because you have the Ashkenazi Jews, which anyone that reads their Bible knows Ashkenazis are the descendants of Japheth. And again, the descendants of Japheth are your European and Asian peoples. And that's going to be found and identified in Genesis chapter 10, verses 2 through 5. And ironically enough, they are called Gentiles. So out of the three sons, I thought that was interesting that they were specifically highlighted and pointed out as Gentiles. Now, I'm not really going to take time to do an in-depth Bible study on Gentiles, because usually pretty much anyone that is not a child or a descendant of the children of Israel, they are considered Gentiles. But that would take some more time to study and discuss that. But I will say it's interesting how Genesis chapter 10, when it comes to the sons of Japheth, specifically out of all three sons, point out that the sons of Japheth are Gentiles. But that's another topic for another day. The point is that you have these Ashkenazi Jews that claim to be the descendants of Shem. And the descendants of Shem, the reason they claim this is because it associates them or gives them a connection to Jesus. Because Jesus is the descendant of Shem. And more specifically, he ultimately, going down his bloodline, he was descended from Aphrax. And I apologize if I said his name wrong, but he descended from him, and so on and so forth, which led to the 12 the 12 children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm sorry, it's late and I'm tired, but I just have to kind of get this out. So it led to the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's where you end up with, of the 12 tribes, one of which is Judah. And that's why a lot of people claim to be Jews, because they claim to be the descendants of the tribe of Judah. And that's where these Ashkenazi Jews are claiming to be Semitic people, descendants of the tribe of Judah. And it actually, what really happened with the children of Israel, it ended up, they were people, they ended up receiving the land of Canaan because God allowed them to invade Hamitic, or the sons of Ham. They invaded their land, and they were able to, he gave them the land of Canaan as an inheritance. What ended up happening, though, is the land of Canaan, of course, they ended up calling it Israel. They divided it into the northern and southern kingdom. So the southern kingdom consisted of Judah and Benjamin, I believe a little bit of the Levites. The northern kingdom consisted of all the other tribes. And so the Jews today actually are claiming to be of the tribe of Judah, the southern kingdom, which is the mixture of the tribes I just mentioned, and then all the other tribes would be considered Israel. So that's where everything left off biblically, because right now Israel is still scattered, but that's another discussion again for another video. But ultimately, this is who these people are claiming to be. They claim to be descendants and that they're bloodborne. So when you have people, for example, if you have a black person that claims to be a descendant of a bloodborne descendant of the children of Israel, then they're looked at as crazy, and they're basically told that, that, well, the children of Israel were not black people, which is now attacking their biology. And they're saying, well, genetically you can't be because you're not black. And in other words, because you're not, because you are black, you can't be from the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, that doesn't make sense, because the Ashkenazis are converts. They're clearly, therefore, are not blood-born. But they deny African people or black people because they say that black people can't be from the tribe, basically because they're black. And the Ashkenazis especially claim to be European Jews. So it's just a huge convoluted contradiction. A huge convoluted contradiction. So, all of that, it doesn't confuse me because I know better. And hopefully by the time I'm done with this study, you will not be confused or deceived by these people either. But yeah, so anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of the backstory of what's going on. Now, just getting into the what I wanted to discuss, black. But black is not limited to one group of people. Now, basically in the world, we're grouped into three main groups, kind of a fourth one, and I'll explain that in a moment. But your three main groups are your black, white, and Asian. Now, the fourth one would be a mixture or a combination of the three. You know, kind of like I remember watching a video about food, and they were saying how when you walk into a grocery aisle, there is this illusion that you have a whole bunch of different choices. You see all types of food and aisles upon aisles of food, and you think, oh, wow, I have a whole lot of choices. But when you really get down to it and find out what's in the food and narrow it down, you realize that you have very few or very limited options because the majority of the food is made out of corn, high fructose corn syrup, just so much stuff, or they're just variations of corn and byproducts. So is we don't have as many options as we would think we have. But it's the same thing with race. We look at all these different people, and because we are so misinformed or lack a clear understanding about who people are, where they come from, we don't really realize that a lot of the races that we see today um, still fall into your three basic categories: black, white, Asian, or a mixture thereof. For example, when you're dealing with Hispanic, Puerto Rican, and I'm really not going to get into the whole Hispanic and Latin thing. I'm just going to point out the fact that that is more of a culture. It's not a race. The reason being is you can have a black Spanish speaking Latino, Hispanic. You can have a white Spanish speaking Hispanic. You can have a Asian Spanish speaking Hispanic.
You are 55% European, 32% Native American, 9% East Asian, and 4% Sub-Saharan African.
I'm black. I gotta put down black.
There you go.
You get that in an omelet. There's 4 different ingredients. 55% European, 32% Native American, 9% East Asian. This is why I'm very calm. And
East Asian, can they translate that to like what does that mean? Where is the Latino section of you?
I might have called my special the wrong name. I should call it Tall, Dark, and Sub-Saharan African. I'm gonna get the whole breakdown, but I don't think anybody's had more of a mixture in the people that it's only been 2. I have 4.
Right.
European is Spanish, actually. European goes
really?
as
Okay,
Latino,
goes to,
so
right.
55% Latino, so everybody on Twitter, don't hate yet.
What joins them is their culture and their language and their food and things and the customs and things like that. Same thing like in America. I am an American, but I am a African American, and I am joined, and what makes me American is the culture, my language. But on the other hand, you know, Americans can be Asians, Americans can be Europeans. So, American is not a race, it's just my culture. My race is African. Well, the way the world categorizes it as is African. But what the world seems to miss, though, is that black, the whole world at one point was black.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out in such numbers. It's really amazing to see so many faces. But we evolved in Africa and then moved out. And a lot of debate is undergoing at the moment regarding how this process worked, when we moved out of Africa, how many times. Subpopulation of Africans moved out of Africa and populated the rest of the world. And this is the reason for this disparity in the diversity. And this model, which is variously being called out of Africa, the recent out of Africa, the recent African model, and mentioning, of course, the mitochondrial Eve, has focused upon this idea that ultimately every modern person is an African originally, and that is the cradle of humankind.
However, there is something that could settle this debate of where the Chinese come from once and for all.
After that,
I'm meeting Professor Jin Li, one of China's leading geneticists. Recently, he led a project that set out to prove that the Chinese evolved independently from everyone else, from Homo erectus, here in China.
before the project started, I was hoping that I could identify or could be able to find the evidence that support independent origin of Chinese in China, because I'm a Chinese and came from China, and through the education process, I always believed that there was something special about Chinese.
He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so, what did you find?
We did not see any, even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
The result couldn't have been any clearer. And how did that make you feel as a Chinese person?
After I saw the evidences that we generate in my laboratory, I think we should all be happy with that, because after all, modern humans from different part of the world are not so different from each other, and we are very close relatives.
It's great, thank you.
The Kalahari Desert, Namibia. I'm here to find an extraordinary ancient tribe of people, the San Bushmen. Our research shows that their distant relatives left Africa and set in motion the family tree of mankind. From them stemmed every color, creed, and nationality alive today.